Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and welcome to yet another Lynn Cullen Still Alive. It is December 28th, and this godforsaken year is almost done. 23 days until Donald Trump is no longer president. And it's been 4 days since I had an opportunity to talk to you, and I was sitting here thinking, what happened in those 4 days? And then my mind just started to reel with everything that, in fact, has happened since last we spoke. And it is, a lot of it has to do, of course, with this dual scourge of Donald Trump's presidency and the pandemic. And it's just endless what goes on in a normal day these days. And we forget what we've been through. I mean, we feel it. It's in our bones now, in our psyches, but we forget, which is why I was so thrilled to see that Dave Barry, the author and humorist, wrote a compilation of this year for the Washington Post magazine, a year in review, which normally I rant and rave about end of year reviews and top 10 lists and all that kind of stuff. It drives me crazy. But this thing was endless. I kept reading and reading and reading, and I forgot so much of what we endured in this year. As he says in the preface, I mean, this was a year, guys, of non-stop awfulness. A year when we, not me, because I've learned not to, a year when we kept saying it couldn't possibly get any worse, and then, of course, it always did. So he does it month by month. And starting in January, we forget we're still impeachment, and maybe a little bit of news that somebody in Wuhan, China, had died of some strange illness, right? And then, my God, February, and we had the upcoming election in November, and so remember all of that? That was this year. All those debates, wondering who the heck was going to come out of that scrum of Democrats, and would it be the person who could, in fact, beat this guy? The total meltdown of the Iowa caucuses, I completely forgot about that. Murder hornets, I forgot about that. But as Dave Barry said, any normal year, murder hornets would have been like the biggest story. It was just a little one day kind of a thing. So and it's true, as February ended, we were still oblivious and thinking that this was just going to be exhausting year because of the election, and very consequential year because of the election. And then came March. And what he does in his year in review is he takes, even though every other month has its own little chapter, he takes March and April and puts them together because they were just a horrific period of time, which he calls Marpril. And he talks about it starting, and it's true. Remember, March started out with, as he said, the Democrats desperately trying to find an alternative to a 132-year-old white guy, Bernie Sanders. And so they seem to be settling on a 132-year-old white guy named Joe Biden. And that is where we were. And then, And what he does in this, I'm going to try to read this to you, and I don't know if I can, but what he does is he then talks in a breathless, non-punctuated manner, trying to explain this combination month of March and April that we lived, when everything we knew was thrown out and we found ourselves in an entirely different world. So I'm going to try to read it as he wrote it. And as I said, there are no punctuation marks. So God help me. Here we go. And then, sprinkled in amid all the political coverage, we begin to see reports that this coronavirus thing might be worse than we have been led to believe, although at first the authorities still seem to be saying that it's basically the flu and there's no reason to panic. But all of a sudden there seems to be no hand sanitizer for sale anywhere, which makes some sense, although there is also no toilet paper, as if people are planning to be pooping for weeks on end. And then we learn that Tom Hanks has the virus, and now they're saying it's a lot worse than the flu, and we need to wash our hands and not touch our faces and maintain a social distance of 6 feet and use an abundance of caution to flatten the curve, whatever that means. But they're also saying we don't need face masks. No, scratch that now. They're saying we do need face masks, but nobody has any face masks. But hey, here's a funny meme about toilet paper, but oh my God, look at these statistical disease models. We're all going to die. But Trump says maybe this hydroxy something other medicine will work. No, it won't work. Yes, it will work. No, it won't. And now they're saying there won't be enough ventilators or hospital beds or PPE. And Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx are saying everybody has to shelter at home or else we are all definitely going to die. Hey, here's another funny toilet paper meme. But seriously, what is PPE? And is that any different from PPP? And where will we get the ventilators? And there won't be enough hospital beds, and there's still no hand sanitizer. And I keep touching my face. And they just canceled the NBA. Can they even do that? Wait, now they canceled all the sports and closed all the schools, the colleges, the stores, the restaurants, the bars, the theaters, the hair salons, the parks, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And now they're saying we need to stay at home for how long? What about the toilet paper? I can't stop touching my damn face. Are you seriously telling me all this is because somebody ate a freaking bat? Maybe Amazon has toilet paper. Oh my God, they're sold out too. What is the deal with the toilet paper? Not another Zoom meeting. No, I'm so tired of shouting at people in little boxes. Maybe I should take a shower, but what's the point? Hey, here's a bunch more funny memes. Oh my God, look at the stock market, the price of oil. Maybe I'll just take a peek at my 401. Oh no, what are people doing with all this toilet paper? And how long do we have to keep being abundantly cautious? What did Mr. Trump say? What did Trump say about the ventilators? And what did Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci say about what Trump said about the ventilators? And what did Trump say about what they said, about what he said about the ventilators? Ventilators, look at these models. We are still going to die. But we do really want to go on living in a world. But do we really want to go on living in a world where there's no toilet paper? And every single TV commercial sounds like, as we navigate these difficult times together, the National Association of Folding Chair Manufacturers wants you to know that we are committed to running these TV commercials with a somber narrator voice telling you how committed we are. And why would somebody eat a damn bat? These memes are getting old. Hey, do you think that Carol Baskin woman actually fed her husband to a tiger? Maybe we should order pizza tonight. Wait, I think we had pizza last night. Are you sure it's Tuesday? Because it feels more like Thursday. No, please, God, not another freaking Zoom meeting. Stop already with the memes. If the tiger ate her husband, shouldn't there be a skeleton somewhere? Are we flattening the curve yet, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx? Because we're in a recession. No, wait, maybe it's a depression. Look at the unemployment numbers. We are never going to recover from this if the virus doesn't kill us all. We're going to starve to death. We need more money from the government. We need billions. No, we need trillions. No, we need more trillions. Where is the money coming from? We have to open up the economy. But if we do, we will all die. Hey, I found some toilet paper. Oh, no, it's one ply, which is basically the same as using your bare hands. Thank God I also found some hand sanitizer. And speaking of good news, Bernie Sanders is endorsing Joe Biden. So apparently they're both still alive. If I see one more meme, I'm going to puke in my face mask. I'm afraid to get on the scale. My thighs are basically 2 armadillo-sized wads of pizza dough. Hey, Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci, when will we have a vaccine? When will we have herd immunity? When can we go outside? When can we go back to work? What is the new normal? Good Lord, what did Trump say about disinfectants? Don't inject Clorox, you idiots. What about the food chain? What about reinfection? What about the second wave? Hey, they're showing the NFL draft in Georgia is opening the tattoo parlors, and holy crap, now it's May. Whew. Let me wipe off my computer screen. I was spitting. Oh, I think that sort of summed it up pretty well. Don't you? Oh, God. I was sitting here having a daydream about how, we should all, I'm usually against, and everybody gets a star for being so good. We all deserve a plaque. And then I thought, well, in this day and age, so we all should be, wearing T-shirts, not to get ahead of ourselves because it's still, I survived 2020. And then I had this picture because this is where my head goes now. I thought, oh, well, I'll be wearing I survived 2020 shirts. And then I thought of some poor soul wearing an I survived 2020 T-shirt, lying in the ICU. Because that's where my head goes. Oh. So, I can't even really begin to imagine where we're all going to be in a year or so. I hope we're alive. I really do. So, surely now, with, as I said, 23 days left of Trump as president, surely now even some of his supporters must be sort of scratching their heads about how, with what we're saying, as many as, let me get this, the CDC's new projections, a possible, and it certainly looks with all the idiot travelers this Christmas, the latest projections from the CDC indicate that there'll be about 400,000 Americans dead by the time Trump leaves office. And if his government, if he had responded in a normal, coherent fashion, as did other leaders in almost every other country, the people who crunch numbers and stuff figure that 2/3 of the people who will have died when he leaves office would still be with us. And if, my God, if he had been as on top of it as Japan was, do you know almost 98% of the people who are dead would still be alive. Because it's easy to forget. It didn't have to be this way. With leadership, with presidential leadership, people would still be alive. And that's just not enough for this guy. He's killed all these people. And then he refuses to sign the relief bill. Too busy, I guess, golfing. Well, people die. Even the Republicans are begging him, sign it, sign it, sign it. And he won't. He waits until last night. But you know what? Because he waited till last night, two of the critical unemployment programs were allowed to lapse. And that means that millions upon millions of already struggling, hungry Americans are going to wait another week at least for some help. Because unemployment benefits are processed weekly and the legislation was not signed by the golfer before the beginning of the week, it is likely that workers in most states are going to lose a week of benefits. And we're not talking about a lot of money for each person, but we're talking about money that they desperately need. And it also delays the $600 that'll be coming to people. It would have been already out in the mail, and now, of course, it isn't. But what does and then the pardons, his pardons, dear God in heaven. Dear God in heaven. What a vengeful, small-minded, little SOB he is. What a flagrant crook. Just in case we hadn't gotten it, he's sure making it clear on his way out. God Almighty. Kurt sent me something funny about the pardons, as if anything is funny about the pardons. But this was. Ivanka's children are probably the only Americans to ever have one grandpa pardoned by the other grandpa. And I got a feeling that that is true. I know it's true up until now, but what I'm thinking is it'll probably be true for all time. Ivanka's kids are the only ones who had one of their grandfathers pardon the other grandfather, both grandfathers being about as repulsive as one could conjure. And then, of course, since last, it was Nashville, which was the oddest thing as we learned about it. So happy nobody died except the perpetrator. But, I mean, nobody died because of the perpetrator in large part because the perpetrator warned people, played that warning. So, I mean, I was thinking, who would be, what is this? This is like a kind terrorist? I don't quite get it. Somebody wanting to announce his power, go out in a blaze of glory, but really didn't want to hurt anybody else. Or will it turn out that there was a reason? Because they're not calling this domestic terror. And the reason they won't call this guy a domestic terrorist, even though he terrorized an entire city and did horrible damage, right? He is not a domestic terrorist because they aren't aware of any ideology. I never know how to pronounce those words. Any ideology that he was promoting by his action. And apparently, I don't know who makes this definition. It's not Webster's. It's probably it's the intelligence community. They've decided that you're not a terrorist if they can't ascertain an ideological reason for your terroristic act. But to say it's not a terroristic act is absurd. It terrorized people. Jeez. Silly, stupid. Give me a break. Oh, man. Thank you, Gigi. Gigi liked my breathless Dave Barry thing. What's funny is my brother sent me the Dave Barry piece. I had already seen it, but he sent it to me and he said morosely, even Dave Barry isn't funny anymore. So he read the whole thing and he didn't laugh. And I wrote him back and said, it's not that Dave Barry isn't funny. It's that there's nothing really funny about 2020. Sorry. This was a year of such extraordinary loss. I mean, loss in so many ways. Loss of human companionship. Loss of the freedom to live our lives as we had lived them. Loss of loved ones. Loss of trust in our institutions. Loss of, well, as the New York Times yesterday did a front page piece, which they headlined, eulogizing the landmarks we lost this year. And do you know what their first one was? I'll read it to you. I'm sorry I'm reading you so much, but this is wonderful. The warnings about the fries were as legendary as the fries themselves. The large is huge. Order it with friends. Seriously, you can't eat it by yourself. The original hot dog shop had hot dog right there in the name, but it was the fries. Perfectly cut, fried twice in peanut oil to extra crispness, served in a massive pile in a paper basket with side cups of beef gravy or cheese product. It was the fries. No one actually called it by its full name, maybe the original, but it was usually just the O. Or, especially among my high school friends and the University of Pittsburgh students in the city's Oakland neighborhood, the dirty O. The place was a favorite of Michael Chabon, a Pitt grad whose first two novels are set in the city. In his memories, he told me, it's 2 a.m. and I've been hanging out with friends and drinking and we're all stumbling through Oakland, which is completely dark and nothing's open except this one shining beacon, the O. Decades later, Chabon says he can still hear the chirping video games and picture the late night security guard glowering at the diverse cross-section of Pittsburgh. In my memory, Chabon says, it's always freezing cold outside and really hot inside. And this sort of miasma of grease from the frying baskets is just hanging over everything. The Pitt Student newspaper reported that when the O closed in April, the owners served up one more giant order of fries. donating 35,000 pounds of potatoes to charity. So in this 2-page thing where they show these iconic places in various cities that also were lost in the pandemic. Obviously, these are eateries because restaurants having to close. But the O was number one there, and that piece, by the way, was written by a guy named Scott Dodd. Yeah. Boston apparently had a place not unlike it, which also went down, called the Cantab Lounge. And I'll just give you this quick little thing from it. The Cantab took only cash. The bar was always sticky, and you wouldn't want to use the bathroom. In a 1996 Senate debate, the Republican candidate held up the Cantab as an argument against public assistance, saying they get the check, go down to the Cantab in the morning and drink it away. Republicans, you gotta love them, right? Right. Even then, 1996, that's what Republicans, they were against helping people because they just drink it away. What a bunch of sons of bitch. Anyway, and one last thing about that place. Ben Affleck's father used to work there serving Budweisers to off-duty postal workers. Just sharing that with you. Oh, dear God. I was, just a quick football thing. Jeez. As if 2020 wasn't hard enough, that game, the Steeler game yesterday, took years off of a lot of people's lives, right? Seriously did. And then, because I have two teams I love, I had to then watch the Green Bay Packers in the night game, played in a raging snowstorm, which was wonderful. God, wonderful. But I was reading in, I don't know where, somewhere today about the Packer game, and Aaron Rodgers, another amazing performance from him, 4 touchdowns, yada, yada, yada. And it turns out, and I don't know why in the game I didn't hear this, but looking at this player's name, I doubt that anything is going to make me laugh more today. What a name! Listen to this. It says Rodgers' other touchdown pass went to wide receiver Equanimous St. Brown. What? His name is Equanimous. Is that not? And then St. Brown. Jeez, what a name. And I guess I never heard it before. I just have to say, Equanimous St. Brown. God, what a moniker. What an amazing moniker. And one other little football note, as long as we're talking about it. Again, I guess this is New York Times did a crunch some numbers and tried to see how well that so-called Rooney Rule is working in the NFL. The Rooney Rule, named after Dan. And the Rooney Rule, in an effort to make the coaching staffs of the NFL look more like America. The rule said that if a team was looking for a coach, they had to interview. I mean, I never thought so big deal. They had to interview at least one non-white candidate. They didn't have to give them the job. They just had to interview. And because that is as weak a kind of rule as you can imagine, it's done absolutely nothing. Nothing. And of all the, Major League Baseball, the NBA, soccer, the WNBA, NFL, all of those sports organizations, none have a more abysmal record than the NFL. The NFL has the biggest discrepancy between the percentage of head coaches and the percentage of players who are non-white. It shouldn't surprise you that the majority of players in the NFL are black. 74% of them. You know how many coaches are? 13%. And it's just black coaches. It is so hard to become a black head coach. It is a joke. And when they're hired at an older age with much more playing experience than white coaches, and they don't get the second chances that white coaches get. White coaches lose jobs left, right, and center and get picked up by another team. And then get fired and get picked up by another team. Black coaches, not so much. So it was just a depressing little bit that I happened upon. Lest we forget the other big story of 2020, the George Floyd death, the Black Lives Matter movement. That was all part of what we experienced. It was a real wake up for an awful lot of folks, including me. Equanimous St. Brown. Jeez. That is just the greatest. Oh. Jim writes, as a 4-decade-long employee at Pitt, I often ate at the Dirty O. Geez, and you're still alive. Good for you. I had a friend who worked there years ago and went down into the basement to get a box of breadcrumbs. He saw a hole in the box. Yeah, right. And when he investigated it, he found the skeleton of a mouse in it. Needless to say, he quit that day? Well, I don't know. Anyway, sure. I ate there once. That was it. That was enough for me once. The same for Primanti's once. I'd go back to the O before I go back to Primanti's. Yeah. Sorry, I know this is like speaking heresy here, but that's what I would say. Susan wants to know if I caught Saturday. I never watched Saturday Night Live. I just don't find it funny anymore. I figure if something really funny happens, I'll see it. It'll be out there on the internet. But she says it was a rerun with Adele as host. One skit was 4 friends visiting a fortune teller at the end of 2019, wanting to know the future. One person was told that he was going to be cut from the group for an unspeakable crime of dining indoors at a restaurant. It's been an unbelievable year. Yeah, 'tis true. Well, let's see. Remember, I think it was some time ago we talked about, can you sum up this year in 6 words? And I forget. Some people really did a good job of it. Not me. But they asked kids, and here's some ones that kids came up with that I think are cute. A kid named Liam Chapman, 10 years old in Columbus, wrote this of what he learned or described his life in 6 words in 2020. Be cat-like. Nap, eat, avoid humans. That is too not 10 years old. Here's more 10 years old, and I love it. This is Sadie McMahon, 10. I love and hate my family. And this from Teo Khan, 11, also Ohio. Great parents aren't always great teachers. I'm sure that's been the experience of a lot of kids. A lot of kids. Oh, so what? I haven't read this whole article, but because it was long, and I just flagged midway. But I just want to, again, just read you this paragraph. It is from The Atlantic, and it's marvelous writer George Packer, and he wrote, as I said, a long piece. I think it's titled "The Legacy Trump Leaves Us" or something. It's Trump's legacy, and it's like, who wants to go there? I mean, I don't even want to think about it. But I thought this summed it up pretty well. Just one of the aspects of the legacy that is, in fact, to me, the most damaging and the most, I don't know how you put it to right again. He talks about, Trump lost the election and how he refused to acknowledge it. In fact, said that it had been stolen from him, and then all the lawsuits and all of that, and then I'll just get to Packer here, and again, we lived this, and it's still, in fact, happening, but the damage we won't know for a long time. George Packer. Within a week of Election Day, false claims of voter fraud in swing states had received almost 5 million mentions in the media, the press, and social media. In one poll, 70% of Republican voters agreed that the election had not been free or fair. So, a stab in the back narrative was buried in the minds of millions of Americans, where it burns away as imperishable as a carbon isotope, consuming whatever is left of their trust in democratic institutions and values. This narrative, this false narrative, will widen the gap between Trump supporters and others who might live in the same town, but a different universe. And that was always Trump's purpose, to keep us locked in a mental prison where reality was unknowable, so that he could go on wielding power, whether in or out of office, including the power to destroy. Well, that is in fact what he has used his extraordinary powers for in the last 4 years. The power to destroy lives, to destroy Americans' trust in almost any institution you can think of, from sports. Remember? He politicized the NFL. He politicized the NBA. He politicized music. He politicized everything that used to bring America together. And all he could do was divide and divide and divide and divide and divide. God Almighty. Well, Father Joseph, what are we going to do with you, Father Joseph, you inveterate optimist? You inveterate, my glass is half full. Guess that's what faith does for you, right? All right, I'll read it. On the other hand, Father Joseph says, the House of Representatives showed courage and impeached the president. Several governors of both parties displayed leadership in making tough calls by locking down their jurisdictions. Multiracial awareness and action addressing the importance of black lives occurred. He's made a list of all the good stuff that happened. Athletes refusing to be silenced about social issues and compelling support of social and betterment efforts by the NFL, NBA, WNBA, even NASCAR. And don't forget the change in mascot names by some teams. Wait a minute. I refuse to give the NFL any credit. Everything they do is cynical and aimed at quieting maybe a restive players union or appearing to be on the right side. But remember what I said about the Rooney Rule. It's just bull. I'm sorry. I'm back to interrupting what you want to say. He's not done. The demythologization, of the Lost Cause Confederacy, including the removal of statues. States facilitating voting by mail for the November election. Swing states all standing by their voting results. Citizens rediscovering the power of their vote. All this stuff, I'm in agreement with you. This was one of the wonderful things that happened. Democracy, as designed by the founding fathers, survived an onslaught on our institutions. See, I think you're too quick there. I don't think we know if we've survived. It appears we have, but these are just battles, right? I don't know that the war is still going on, and I don't know. Parents' newfound appreciation for teachers, well, there's something. And let's hope that means more support for education in the future. The results of the presidential election, that was a good thing. And, you're sweet. Lynn Cullen keeping us on our toes. Well, thank you. Hey, speaking of let us hope that this means more support for educators in the future. I just got to tell you, again, this is the pessimist speaking. A pessimist who usually has just a bushel full of facts to buttress my jaundiced view. Today's New York Times, actually, it was a front page article. It went well into 2 pages. Focuses on Indiana University of Pennsylvania. IUP. It's a campus probably many of us know. I know I spoke there once. Wonderful little campus. It's a place that did what it was intended to do for many, many years, which was offer young people who didn't have a lot of resources the potential for getting a college degree and consequently raising their level of income in their lives. The headline on this piece is "The virus was the latest blow to colleges offering a path to the middle class." And they focus on one student, very poor, from a very poor family. She would be the first to graduate. This is what the students at places like IUP often are. And they do a piece that just makes you want to scream about what happened there during the pandemic. Speaking of loss, say goodbye to the journalism department. It's gone. Say goodbye to, I'm not sure, they don't even name the other departments. There's like 5 or 6 departments that just disappeared overnight. In fact, the young student that they focus on was in journalism, and her departments disappeared on her. The article points out that because Pennsylvania has a Republican-led legislature, and often even executive, it spent the last 10, 20 years clawing back support, monetary support for education in the state, which is as short-sighted, stupid, and mean-spirited as, well, one can expect from Republicans. The reality is that in 2020, a student in Pennsylvania gets 34% less money spent on them than they did in 2008. 34% less. And this comes as Pennsylvania and other states rely on these smaller regional public schools as economic drivers. IUP is the largest employer in Indiana, PA, and that is true of so many of these campuses. 60% of jobs in Pennsylvania require some post-secondary education, but only 47% of Pennsylvanians have that. And they are given no help. And they talk about the stupid things that a small place like IUP made when money seemed to be, right before the 2008 recession, they were feeling like, hey, things are going really great. They bought 90 Steinway pianos for $2.6 million. I'm willing to bet they've closed the School of Music too now. 2.6 mil. And then they spent an unbelievable amount of money, $250 million, on suite style dormitories, which were all the rage. Let me tell you what that means. That means that a student who used to go to IUP and had to fork over let's say, close after they built the fancy things, it was $4,000. So they spent all this money on crap that had nothing to do with education. And that made the cost to the pupil keep rising and rising and rising. And the burden of supporting the state system shifted from the state to the individual student. In the 1980s, Pennsylvania, get this through your heads and understand what young people, when you see young people, anyone under the age of actually 30 or 40, what they have had, the environment they have come of age in, the parsimonious, cruel, Republican, nasty system they've come up in, or haven't come up because they're just being pushed down. In the 1980s, Pennsylvania paid 75% of a student's financial burden through all kinds of ways. That has been flipped totally, so that now a student has to pay 75%. The state only 25%. IUP, it says here, for a student who doesn't have much money, and that is a whole bunch of them, if they go for the least expensive living situation, the least expensive meal plan, the least expensive anything that IUP offers, last year, it's still over $21,000. Which means, of course, they're borrowing it. They don't have it. Their parents don't have it. Which means even if they do get through, they're going to have six-figure debt to pay off. I don't know, guys. As I have been saying, because it's something I've just really realized is so true, we are a cruel, I'm sorry, we are a cruel country. We elect cruel. If we elect Republicans, we're electing cruel. And there's no other way to say it, because they step on the necks of the needy. And they shake down the poor to give it to the filthy rich. That's what Republicans do. The cruelty of it, the immorality of it, the inhumanity of it is breathtaking. Do I have a caller? I'm sorry, I haven't been looking. Forgive me, I've been on a... Is there a caller still there?
Hi, Lynn, it's David. Good morning.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Real good, thanks. Hey, thanks for getting my motor started this morning. Man, that was good. You hit it right on the head. the rant was perfect. I'll tell you what, it's just what I needed.
Good. Hey, I'm glad.
Hey, the Corbett guy, he's the one that tried to shut down everything, take all the money away, libraries, schools, the places of learning where you think that people would get to know better, and let's get rid of those places. And
Yeah.
Why provide the tool to go forward?
It's the thing though that just drives me crazy is, don't they see again the short-sightedness of it? The fact that depriving people rather than giving them a leg up ends up hurting all of us. Why are they incapable of seeing something so simple?
Well, instead of shutting down these places, he should have just simply allowed for a minimal taxation on the fracking. That would have paid for everything.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it and his buddies, we don't want to pay anything into your state. Why should we do that? Let's take the money and run.
What was amazing about that? They wouldn't tax the oil companies, just let them have at us. But even Republican strongholds like Texas and Oklahoma, they taxed them.
Yep, all along.
God.
You got that right. And,
it's just easy money. Yep.
Low-hanging fruit. And,
yeah.
And that's what we are. How many different groups like this? The frackers. I mean, it make the list. It's remarkable. They take us for suckers. Trump sure did.
Yeah. Well, the people who aren't suckers did prevail in the election, but the number of suckers is terrifying.
It's remarkable how many people came out for it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, keep your snowies handy. I'll tell you what, 2 big ones so far. I think it's gonna be a deep winter.
It seems to be, huh? Yeah, I love it. I love snow.
I ran that snowies right down the middle of my driveway, cut out 2 pathways. That was good to go.
I had this back surgery. I'm sure I'm not supposed to, but I did get my thought. It's a snowies. I don't have to lift. I just have to push.
Exactly.
And so, since I push, I can push. They didn't say don't push. They said don't lift, don't bend. So I went out with my snowies on the first one early on in it, because you had to do it more than once because the snowies is good for no more than like 4 inches, right, at a time.
Yep, that's right. Not too much.
Right. So I went out with my snowies and I was just having a ball, and it was not in any way exerting myself. And some woman came by and said, "Wow, that is the neatest thing. Where do you get one?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." They're gone.
Maybe go online, maybe see something like that.
I don't know. I actually tried to start up, see if I could, figure out how to manufacture them, and it's just too much. It's too expensive. You can't find that quality of plastic. You have to end up in China. It's that whole, you find out the trouble of putting something on the market.
Well, it's relatively a high-grade product. I mean, the plastic is not going anywhere. It's solid.
No.
It's it's 1/4 inch, and the metal frame. It could last forever. Last longer than us, huh?
Well, I got 2 of them, and they're still both totally operative. Yep. And I'm hanging on to both of them. I know that seems awful, but maybe someday I'll give one away.
Hey, people that need it, they if you can't get one, we're the treasure chest here.
Okay.
Anyway,
nice talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Have a good 2021. We'll see you.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, we got to end this one on time, guys. There's an appointment to get to, but we're going to let Tony have the last word because he's got an email here I haven't shared. I didn't go to the original hot dog too often, but every once in a while I get a craving for a hot dog. I love the dog with steamed cheese and onion. That's cheese product. Steamed cheese and onions, or chili and onions. The fries were great, but the portion was too big for one person. Yeah, I thought they would always be there. I don't think they closed because of the pandemic. They were going to close anyway. I will miss them. You would think the family would have sold the business to someone else. I don't know all the details. As far as Permantes, I never had one until about a couple of years ago. My brother ordered a corned beef, and I ordered the Pittsburgher, which I think is the original sandwich. I should have ordered the corned beef. Okay, you. All right. I guess that's it for today. Susan will be joining us tomorrow, and Sally Wiggin making a return appearance for the last show of the year on Wednesday. Oh, guys, 2020, total low. Stay well, stay safe. We got to survive. Okay? Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.